It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Here is Rick Smith.
Over the weekend, got a number of communications on the UAW strike. And look, I'm all in. I think this can be transformational. I have great hope that Shawn Fain and the leadership is pushing in the right direction, not just to change what's going on at the big three, but potentially all across every industry as we start asking the question, why is it we're enriching the very wealthy at the expense of the person who's doing the actual work? I'm sure hoping. But over the weekend, I got email from a guy who said he believed that the strike was Joe Biden's fault. And I agreed with him. This is Biden's fault. And here to share some thoughts on maybe how, or if it is. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. We're going to find out if this is Joe Biden's fault. That's why I've asked Mike Williams to come talk with us. Mike is a senior fellow for domestic climate at the Domestic Climate Center at the Center for American Progress, AmericanProgress.org, the website. Mike, thanks for taking time for us.
My pleasure, Rick. I always love being here.
So let's get to it. Is this Biden's fault? Did Biden do this? Are we going to see a sticker with him pointing at the strike going, I did that?
You know what's interesting, Rick? When you empower working people, when the politics actually work, when you elect the politicians who will actually work for you, and that's Joe Biden, they feel empowered to actually stand up. And so in that way, yeah, maybe it is his quote-unquote fault, or maybe he deserves some credit for creating the space so that this transformational effort that's being put forth by President Fain and the auto workers, all of the workers there, the 150,000 of them, to step up and demand what they deserve.
Yep. What they earn. I hate that word deserve. It's what they earn. They're the ones who create the wealth. They're the ones who show up and do the midnight shift. They're the ones who bleed and sweat. They're the ones who walk home with sore backs and sore muscles. They create the wealth. They earn it. They should get a bigger share of it. And that's, for me, very simple.
That's right. That's right. And the other part of this too, Rick, so actually there's two other parts to this. The first, President Biden is the most pro-union president, definitely in my lifetime and maybe in this country's history. So he's done that not just because of the legislation he's pushed, the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill that had labor standards attached to it, but in every way he can, he's using the power of the federal government to try to lift up and support working people and specifically union workers. But then the other part of this is he is helping usher in a push towards cleaner vehicles, towards electric vehicles. And people are rightfully, perhaps especially those who work in the industry, might be concerned about that transition. But guess what? The world is moving that direction. China is building absolutely tons of cheap, crappy electric vehicles, and they're going to start dumping them on the markets. So should we do what the other guy, Trump, says and say, no, we're not going to do electric vehicles. We're going to just keep building the gas-powered cars we have for the last 100 years and just stick our heads in the sand and then just poof, lose the industry? Or are we going to do what President Biden and Congress and actually the UAW has said they support and invest in our future and make it so we have auto jobs for the next generation?
That sounds like common sense. Sounds like smart policy. Maybe if we would have done that with other industries in the past, go down the line of industries that we've lost because of outsourcing or because of technological changes that then get outsourced. Had we done this kind of a just transition, and that's, I guess, the buzzword that they're using now. Had we done this now, maybe the working class wouldn't be in the condition it's in right now.
That's exactly right. And that phrase, just transition, which has been maligned and in potentially a lot of ways, rightfully so. But this is our chance to do a just transition right. And the UAW is stepping up and taking control of their future and saying, you know what? We get it. Electric vehicles are part of not just our future, but our present. But we want to be the ones building them, and the people building them, they're our members, and even outside of our members, they should be making the proper, decent wages that they have earned. And you rightfully corrected me. I said the word deserve. You're right that they've earned in doing this. So electric vehicle jobs that make batteries for electric vehicles, they should be paid what other auto workers make. Mind blowing. But that's part of what the UAW is fighting for.
Yeah. And, look, I've been talking about for the last couple of days the fact that these auto worker jobs, these were the gold standard of the American working class. And I've told the story 1,000 times. When I was a kid growing up in the projects, the neighbor got a job at Ford, got a UAW job, and immediately their lives got better. They had food at the end of the month. Kids got bikes. They got a secondhand car. They eventually moved out of the projects altogether. Their lives got incredibly better because the wages were superior. The benefits were superior. You worked your butt off, but your life got better. I'm looking at the wages now, and I was just reading them. I'm going, that family that lived next door to me, they couldn't have done half of the things they did with the job currently, with the conditions we're seeing right now. And that's not helpful.
No. So Rick, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I saw it earlier today. People were quoting the Henry Ford thing, like the $5 a day on the line. Auto workers once made $5 a day. Like, yeah, that was 1920 something. Yeah. Do you know what that is today? It's like 120 or something like that. It's something like $70 an hour or something along those lines. I don't remember the math, so don't quote me on it, although we're live, so somebody will quote me on it. Regardless, they can figure out the math. It is way beyond what they're making now.
Yep.
Auto worker wages have not kept up with inflation. That's one. That's why when people get scared, like, oh, they want a 40% raise, guess what? They haven't had one since 2007. And to save their industry, they created a second lower tier of workers who come in at a significantly lower wage, making $20 an hour or something at
17
this point.
I saw, which is
17
crazy.
An hour. And in some of the battery facilities, they're making 15 an hour. That you can't support a family on wages like that. You can't. So when you're talking about a 40% wage, we're literally just catching up to where they should be, let alone what they would be if they were making the, back then, Henry Ford, $5 a day, the wages that would make it so they can afford an F-150 Lightning, make it so they can afford a Jeep. They can't right now on these wages.
No, look, on $17 an hour, you can't afford any of the Ford cars, any of the trucks, because I've looked at them. They are not cheap. And those prices are going somewhere. And I think I know exactly where they're going into the CEO's pockets. They make over $22 to $29 million a year. They're going into the shareholders' pockets. $5 billion stock buyback, I guess, this year is what the three are talking about. Plus, $250 billion in profits over the last 10 years that didn't trickle down into the pockets of the people who actually created that wealth. And this again is where I come back to. I'm hoping that the rest of us who have been beaten for the last 40 years almost into submission see this as an opportunity to go, hey, if they can do it, if they can win, maybe we can too. And this begins a snowball effect of people going, you know what? We can fight for better wages, hours, conditions. We can fight for the just transition.
Absolutely. And we can see this in multiple places. The Teamsters, in a very tense negotiation with UPS, they won. And they have like huge 150% increase in people looking for jobs to be Teamsters, to be UPS drivers. Amazing. No workforce shortage there. Amazing how that works, right? We see it in the writers and the actors who are worried about getting replaced by artificial intelligence, and they have every right to be, because the greedy Hollywood producers are definitely going to do that. So they're standing up and saying no. And the auto workers are standing at the precipice of probably the biggest transformation in their industry that they've ever seen, and that anybody who's worked in that industry has ever seen. And they're standing up and saying, we want to be part of that future. We're standing here and we're claiming our right as part of that future because we have built the wealth that this industry has created. So more power to them. And you're exactly right. We need more of this. We need more of this. So everybody who cares even a little bit about the success of the American economy, the success of American people, should be rooting for the auto workers here.
No, and this is where I bring this back to why every working person should care. Why you should do what I've been saying for the last couple of years: adopt a striker, get out there on a picket line, walk with them, bring a couple of bottles of water, a pizza, something, drop a donation into their strike fund, because their victory is that rising tide lifting all boats and will help everybody. So for me, this is that community moment. This is that solidarity moment.
Yep, exactly right. And I'm glad you brought up CEO pay, because it's one of the things that just drives me nuts. The claims of, oh, we're going to go bankrupt if we have to give such big bonuses. And to see the salary, the Stellantis CEO made $25 million last year. $25 million. One dude made $25 million. And we've got people on the line who are working 10 to 16-hour days, making $17 an hour. What? And this is what we're fighting. It's horrifying. So yes, just again, if I'm repeating myself, you're exactly right. People should be supporting the UAW. Adopt a striker. I wholeheartedly support that, Rick. And we'll come out better after this.
This is one of those moments, again, I keep coming back to this because I think it's important. We've got rich people telling working people that they're asking for too much. We've got millionaires and billionaires telling people who work for 17, 18, 19 bucks an hour that their demands are too much and that the company they'll go broke, they'll go bankrupt. And what's interesting to me is you look how profitable they've been over the last several years. They don't seem to want to share any of that wealth. Yet, when they were in trouble, what was the first thing they did when they got in trouble?
Ask for bailouts.
Ask for bailouts and concessions from the workers. And what did they get? Massive concessions.
Yes.
Everyone tells me, the auto workers got bailed out during the Obama years. They didn't get bailed out. They got
the
screwed.
Auto companies got bailed out. The CEOs got bailed out. And the workers stood up, and they were part of the people who were bailing them out.
Yep.
They cut into their own future earnings to save the rear ends of the CEOs and the companies. So that's insane. Nobody should say the auto workers ever got bailed out. They're the ones who were bailing the water out of the sinking ship of the auto industry. Them and the Obama administration, who also should deserve credit for saving them.
Yeah, but the one thing that the auto workers did get to save is their pensions. That's one of the first times, and that's what everyone's ticked off about. That's what the wealthy are ticked off about. They didn't get to steal those workers' pensions. I got to ask you this, though. I remember the Obama years, and I remember Obama saying that he had comfortable shoes and he was going to get out and walk on picket lines. I didn't see him in Wisconsin. I didn't see him put those comfortable shoes on ever. I've been saying Joe Biden should borrow those shoes because they're probably not well used, and he should get out there and walk on the picket line, because ultimately I think he's responsible in positive ways, promoting unionism and promoting the next generation of employment that they're fighting for. Any thoughts?
So it would be amazing if he showed up. He's already voiced his support in stronger words than we ever saw of a strike this big from any president. I mean, I just saw a quote from Bernie Sanders saying President Biden has shown in his statements how strong of a supporter he is of the UAW. Him showing up in the picket line would be just an amazing show of support. He did record a video for the Amazon workers. So, I mean, President Joe is there.
Yeah.
But the visual of the picket line is pretty amazing. The last day or so, he's had Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine in town, UN General Assembly. He's meeting with President Lula, doing an event on working people with, the working class hero of Brazil. So I get it. He's president. He's got quite a lot to do right now, and we need him to do that. We need him to be that president for all of us. But yeah, I mean, it would be something else, right?
See, but I see this as a moment that could really politically help him. Outside of really helping working people and setting, but politically, this could be that moment where you go, look, I hear you, I'm with you. Going into those small towns that have been just eviscerated over the years as these big corporations have just abandoned place after place. Saying, look, we're behind you. We're going to have your back. To me, that's the messaging in that is so important.
I don't disagree, and because his actions back that up. And so this would be him showing up and saying, I've had your back doing the work in DC, but I'm showing up here and I got your back too. It would be the full picture. It would be pretty darn cool.
Any final thoughts?
Keep fighting the good fight, Rick. This is Solidarity Summer is moving into Solidarity Fall. I hope the worker action doesn't stop. We need it. We need it to help make sure that we have a strong, clean economy for everyone. And yeah, otherwise, that's all I got.
Heading in the right direction. That's my thought. Mike, I appreciate the time. As always, good stuff.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks so much. Mike Williams. He's a senior fellow at the Domestic Climate Center for the Center for American Progress. AmericanProgress.org, the website, if you want to check out the work that they do. We'll get links out on social media. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The Inflation Reduction Act will lower energy prices and create millions of new jobs by dramatically increasing the manufacturing of solar panels, wind turbines, electric cars, and energy-efficient home appliances. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
Got an email from Terry in Santa Fe. I didn't remember the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and she pointed out Robert Kiyosaki. She said, "You're welcome," and thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. She said that she met him once at a conference. Quote, "He's actually a pretty nice guy." He said in his presentation that the real reason the wealthy will continue to get richer is because they pay politicians to make laws that are beneficial to wealthy people. No, that is spot on accurate, absolute gospel truth. And amazing to me how cheap it is to buy a politician. And I had a friend who was a congressman from Illinois, and he said, look, no one ever bought my vote, but they bought my ear for 10 minutes at a time. So for that $2,000 donation, you get 10 or 15 minutes to use that congressman as your priest, to dump all of your wants and wishes and dreams and hopes onto, in the hopes that they fall your way. And enough of you say that, they begin thinking that way. Let's quick go to the phones. We got Harry on line 1 from Chicago. Harry, how are you?
I'm well. So when Jack Welch was leaving GE, there were 3 men vying to replace him. It was Nardelli, McNerney, and I forget the third one. But what all these corporations, they all had backup plans, corporations they were going to go to. Like McNerney, instantly, since he didn't replace Jack Welch, he went to 3M. He tripled 3M stock, if I remember correctly, and then he was pretty much done there. And then he replaced the Boeing CEO because the Boeing CEO unfortunately monkeyed around with one of his underlings, let's call them. But anyways, the problem is that these CEOs get these huge compensations because everyone's vying for them because they think that they need them. And to a great extent, they don't. They're hoodwinking themselves into this. And one example is like the McDonald's CEO. They're always thinking of new sandwiches to come up with. And I went to school for business administration, and my concentration was in human resource management, just a little bit of background. But when you go to the McDonald's CEO, they're always coming up with all these new products to sell, but really what they need is to fire like 10 or 20% of their managers because you go in there and they're nasty, okay? They're not nice to the people that walk in. And a thing I came up with a couple of weeks ago is stop hating your customers because you go in there and they treat you so poorly. So if they just kept the stores clean and the management nice and all the employees nice, business would be booming. But so Are you still there?
Yeah, and I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you to get to the point where if you pay those people a decent wage, they'll be much happier. But go ahead.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. I'm on a cell phone, and
yeah, I was waiting for you to say that if you paid them better, they'd be happier.
Who the employees?
Yes.
Well, okay, so that's absolutely true. But what I took some of the first entrepreneurship classes and culture classes on determining the culture in a corporation. And one thing that we found out was that 90% of employees, and that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but we'll use it as a round number, they leave their job because they don't like their manager. Not because they're underpaid or they don't like the hours or their job content, but it's because they don't like their manager. Okay, so they may say that they're underpaid, but that's only one aspect of it. When you have these nasty managers, I've gone into McDonald's, and I don't go there often because they don't have salads anymore, but it's bad management that's causing McDonald's problems. Like when you go in and they don't have ice cream for days and weeks at a time. Well, McDonald's knows. They have computers. They know when a store has not sold any ice cream or any shakes, and they still let that store get away with it. The zone manager lets them get away with it. They don't need these hyper-intelligent people that have been trained in Six Sigma and all these other things that they think they need. They need someone who's going to MBWE, management by wandering around, et cetera. So
no, you're right. I'm with you. Good stuff, Harry. Appreciate it, man. He's right. He's spot on. And look, the reality is you've got these people who are looking for things to do, trouble to make. You don't need to recreate McDonald's. You don't need new sandwiches or anything. What you got is that's the golden ticket, man. Do that really, really well, and stick with that. So I agree with him. But here's the thing, and then it comes back down to this. We end up management heavy, worker light. We pay the people at the top enormously well, and the folks at the bottom who actually do the work, they're the ones who get shortchanged. And the weirdest thing is and I don't want to get all hung up on the McDonald's thing, because my experience has been, it's the managers who are just horribly angry and cracking the whip, and it's the workers who actually are the people who are the lowest end of the spectrum. They're the nice people. They're the people who smile, and even though they're struggling to make ends meet, and that because they're not making a decent wage, and they're taking what from above, and yet still they're still nice. I guess I struggle with that. But on this CEO thing, this is I'm hoping we're at a juncture right now where we start looking upward, and you saw it also in the UPS strike. Or the UPS talk of a strike when they were the contract fight. They were going after that CEO who was making enormous amounts of money, and the stock buybacks that were being done to pump up the price for the CEO. I'm hoping working people are paying attention to that, because if anything, all of these worker actions, these are what seem to be the undercurrent, and I'm hoping there's a some kind of cosmic plan to move us in this direction. I'm hoping there's some way to get that message. Now, to Harry's point about about people not leaving jobs because of wages, and it's about treatment. In my years of organizing, virtually every place that we organized, it was about conditions. It was about treatment. And I think this is why you're seeing so much labor activity, like around Starbucks and around Trader Joe's and AEI and all of these different REI and all these different lower end employers, because the treatment's crap. You came out of the pandemic being told you were a hero, you're essential, all of this stuff, and then the pandemic's over. We're going back to pre-pandemic treatment, and I'm in this mindset that people have had enough of it and aren't going to put up with it. So maybe we are in this cycle where people are going to not put up with the same old garbage. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Always there, always available. Share it with your friends, coworkers, people you like, people you don't like. Make sure you share it. Also, if you want to get some of the Working Class Hero merchandise, we have opened a store on the ricksmithshow.com. Just go to the store. You can check out any of the clothing things that we've got, from hoodies to t-shirts and all that. Quick break, right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing, because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage. Was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a lot, so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials, creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.